it's time to go back to Sunnydale. We recently caught up with the team at Vivendi Universal to talk about their latest game, a secret episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's chock full of Slayery goodness and features all the best-known characters from the TV series, as well as a cast of demons, or as they prefer to be called, undead Americans.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Chaos Bleeds, actually takes place in Season 5. We wrote it as a lost episode.
And in this episode, Ethan Rayne, an old friend of Giles and a worshiper of the two-faced deity Janus, wreaks a little havoc amongst the Scoobies.
He likes to think of himself as a sort of chaos magician. He's a very evil, selfish, greedy man, but with charm. And he basically strikes a deal with the First to set up a competition, and if Ethan manages to win the competition, the First will grant him all the powers of a Lord of Chaos. And if he loses, he'll wind up as, you know, some kind of like lickspittle somewhere in the depths of hell.
So he asks Ethan to choose 5 contestants for this contest, and of course Ethan chooses Buffy, chooses Willow, chooses Faith, Spike, and Ethan also wanted to choose Oz, but Oz is off doing his thing with the werewolf, so he chooses Xander instead.
Just another day in the life of the Scooby Gang, sending another big bad to eternal damnation. But how do each of the gangs stack up?
They all have their own unique strengths and weaknesses. Personally, I like Faith, just kind of does what she does and doesn't listen to what's right or wrong.
Willow is obviously not the most physical of combatants. Her strength really lies in her use of magic. She can generate a miniature sun, which is fantastic for just frying all the vampires in the area. She can also create fireballs that she can send out homing after vampires and demons, which is another great way to get rid of those guys.
And Xander, not much of a fighter, so he utilizes a lot of different weapons, axes, and baseball bats.
And lastly, but definitely not least, you get to play as Sid, the demon hunter trapped in a ventriloquist doll's body. Sid, being that he's made of wood, has a certain amount of durability. He's also very small, which is actually the main useful feature of Sid in the game.
No Slayer experience would be complete without a big box of death-dealing weapons, and Chaos Reign has enough pointy things to keep players busy for quite a while.
Well, seeing as it's a vampire slaying game, there's a heavy stake usage. There's also a host of other good ways of dispatching vampires. There's pool cues, there's shovels, there's the water pistol, which can fire holy water or hellfire. You can throw these little vials, bottles of hellfire and holy water like grenades. You can use swords.
If I'm in the middle of a battle and I don't have a stake, I can look at a chair, or I can look at a wooden table or a signpost and say, hey, if I walk up and kick that thing, the splinters from that I can actually pick up and use as a stake.
And then there's the best part, the cloud of dust that accompanies the death of a vamp.
When you kill vampires, they dust. You get that hanging skeleton for a second and then just collapse into a pile of dust.
Staking the vampires, that's the core of this game. And it was real important for us to get that just right, that satisfaction of driving a wooden stake into a vampire's chest.
A game like this is the chance for the designer's kooky side to take control, but they have to stay true to the world of Buffy. Now that led to some creative ideas.
When we set out to create the enemies for the game, obviously we were grounded in what has already been created for the show, and because this is an alternate dimension, a bleeding dimension, we were able to sort of expand upon that and come up with some pretty crazy things as well. For instance, in the Sunnydale Zoo, you'll be fighting zombie gorillas and zombie penguins and all sorts of crazy things.
Mutant chimpanzees. Wonderful. What's next?
As you can hear, the voices in the game are downright spiffy, probably because most of them are actors from the show.
This is Spike, Total Trigger Dialogue, 449.
Just Neverland.
The only difference between acting on the set and doing the voiceover for the video game is that in the video game, you just have to heighten it just a little bit.
Get your filthy paws off me. Or whatever those things are.
The way we do the acting on Buffy is very straight, because that's where the humor can bounce off of.
I was sucking blood when you were still nursing a bottle.
So what does the man who puts the human in Spike think of the game?
You don't have to pay the game character to keep fighting. is the only difference between the game character and the character on the show. And it's not over after 48 minutes. You can keep playing, but otherwise it looks just like me. And I did all the voiceover, so it's going to sound like me. And I think my black coat is even cooler in the game.
Taking on such a popular show can be a challenge for game designers, but the team at Vivendi Universal has given this game their all.
First and foremost, the game has got to be great for Buffy fans and non-Buffy fans. I want this game to play great for the person who's never watched a Buffy episode. So it's a way to introduce them to the mythology and to the characters. So first and foremost, the game is accessible to everyone.
The writing in the show is fantastic. They managed to pack it full of drama, horror, and a huge amount of humor. It just helps create this whole feeling that this is a playable episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.